I've kind of I mean, I still listen to new music and I listen to old music, but I'm finding it harder to when I'm driving to listen to music more. Like I listen to podcasts. Like I listened to yesterday. Tom Green was on Jim Norton and Sam Roberts. I think it was from a couple of years ago, and I had listened. Just I was like, oh, I haven't heard this one, and that's 45 minute episode, or maybe sometimes Ron from Ron and Fez, he does a show called I'm trying to think interviews with Ron Bennington, and Ed Burns has been on there a couple times, so I'll listen. Those are usually like an hour. So yeah, if you ever want to listen to anyone, go look up interviews. I think it's Ron Bennington interviews RBI, and he's got maybe 100 different people, usually comedians or directors, actors, actresses. So that's a fun thing for people. So if you had to, what's your go-to podcast for the listeners before we wrap it up? Like a podcast that you would suggest. It doesn't have to be a go-to, but one that you enjoy.
For storytelling filmmaking friends, I like the Q&A with Jeff Goldsmith.
Okay.
Because he just interviews screenwriters. I love that one. And then this is kind of random, but I like This American Life from NPR because they're great. It's good storytelling. It's pretty entertaining, and they'll have a lot of humor on there too. So those are the ones that I typically. But recently, I've been listening to more of like the West Wing Weekly, which they break down episodes of the West Wing, and the Office Ladies, where they break down episodes of The Office.
Okay.
I don't think I listen to the traditional podcast that most people listen to. Mine are very focused.
I listen to lately. I was into this one. I'm trying to find it on here now. Morbid, a true crime podcast.
Okay.
So I listen to. They have like the regular episode. Like they'll sometimes have longer episodes, like BTK Killer. That was like a 3-part episode. Each episode was an hour. But most episodes are just 1 hour, or they'll do a mini Morbid, those are like 30 minutes long. And these girls actually travel around to little venues and do it live.
Oh, that's cool.
I listen to that one, and depending on the guest, I'll listen. I'll check out Joe Rogan, see who he has on, and then sometimes Shelly will send me just a random podcast. She was like, "Hey, check this out." I'll give it a listen. If I like it, I'll listen to it the whole way. If I don't, But other than that, those are basically the ones I check out. And I still listen to the old. I listen to sometimes Ron's newer show, Bennington, and it's okay, but it's just not got the weird elements to the Ron and Fez show that I liked.
What? So for somebody who's never really listened to Ron and Fez, how would you describe their show?
Ron and Fez is like unlike any radio show that I've ever heard. They'll do bits, and they'll do segments, and they'll do listener interaction, taking phone calls. But they're always crossing the line between what's real and what's not, and you don't know. Like you can't just listen to one show and be like, "Oh, I'm really into that show." It grows on you after a while. Because at first I really liked Opie and Anthony, but they did the traditional things. They talked about kind of like how I had fashioned a little bit the Midnight Mutants on WMMT. We kind of opened up. We did like some news, celebrity news, kind of followed a little bit of a format. Mm-hmm. And Ron and Fez did for a while, but then their personal lives bled over into the air, which made for some really compelling, odd, interesting radio that I've never got from anywhere else. And it was the cast of characters that made them. And Ron was kind of like the ringleader, but he had these weird and odd people like Black Earl Douglas, Eastside Dave, Fez, Chris Stanley. He's another one of the producers. So there's all these people, and then you get to know some of the callers that come in. So it's kind of like just a circus. It's like an on-air circus that you never know what's going to happen ever.
Hmm.
And it's not always funny, but it's always interesting, and you're always like, what did I just listen to? So
That's
it's always captured me, because I
okay.
used to be diehard O&A, but Ron and Fez used to come on later, and I just stumbled upon on them. And then when O&A went to XM, Ron and Fez went to XM as well, because O&A was allowed to bring one other show. Opie and Anthony brought Ron and Fez, and they've been on, Sirius XM ever since. What makes me sad though, and this will be all that I'll say about it, but Ron and Fez broadcast from WJFK in DC when I lived there back in the mid 2000s, and they used to do meet and greets at Dr. Dreamo's, where you and I played that
Hmm.
time. The sad thing was, I didn't know that at the time,
Dang.
or I could have met him. Yeah,
Wow.
I had no idea that they did that, and they did it weekly. Or Hard Times Cafe in Fairfax, they met there pretty often too.
I gotta listen to them because
I want to find you a couple episodes or a couple segments.
send me something that you think represents the show.
Okay, I'll go through a couple, some short segments, and I mean, you
Yeah.
may not like it, but it take I mean it takes a little while to grow on you and get used to, like, Ron, because Ron puts down Fez quite a bit, but like it's just so weird, the evolution of the show, because I've listened to many incarnations of the show,
Hmm.
and they still have the show now, but Bennington's daughter, Ron's daughter, Gail, she I don't have anything against her, but she doesn't really add anything to the show.
Hmm.
I mean, she seems nice, but she just seems to pretty much just be the yes man to her dad, because it's the only father daughter radio duo that's on the air. But yeah, the Ron and Fez days. Fez retired, I think, back in 2015. I think, due to mental health issues
Oh, okay.
brought on partly by the show,
It's sounds like it could do it.
because Fez played a gay character on the show, but
Mhm.
after years of playing the gay character on the show, he came to realize that he himself was actually gay in real life.
Really?
But in his personal life, he was like spiritual and religious, and he was afraid to tell his family, so coming out was always a big thing. So there was a lot of discussion about a secret that he had, which was him coming out, but they never told what the secret was for many years. It went on for several years, and you
Hmm.
could hear the deterioration of Fez throughout the last parts of the show, which was compelling and sad at the same
Yeah.
time.